we're going to talk about how improperly managed or applied manure can pollute surface water. As we saw in Module 2, adding manure to the soil provides benefits in the form of nutrients and organic matter. Here we will talk about what may happen if the manure moves from the field, where it has value, into a ditch or in the water where it becomes a pollutant. First, even with good management, keeping manure completely out of the environment is difficult. As you already learned, manure and nutrients may be lost through surface runoff and through volatilization, when a compound passes off as a vapor. You also learned about leaching of nutrients or small manure particles that may reach the tile drains or shallow groundwater. Let's talk about these issues. These same nutrients that are beneficial for plant growth also lead to algae growth if they enter a lake or coastal waters. When the algae dies, they fall to the bottom of the water and start to decay. This decaying process consumes too much oxygen in the water, which kills fish and other aquatic organisms. Organic matter, such as manure, also has an impact on fish populations by changing the clarity and temperature of the water. In addition to manure sometimes causing fish kills, lakes sometimes develop algal plumes, which was a very serious issue in 2011. This example from the Iowa Environmental Council shows the results of an analysis that found manure spills responsible for about 1.2 million fish kills in Iowa over a period of 2 years. That's why it's important to follow a manure management plan and make good decisions when applying, with respect for setback distances from streams, lakes, and wetlands. Using best practices will prevent nutrients from entering the water through runoff and leaching, like we discussed in Module 2. Now that you understand how manure can cause pollution, here are some best practices that will help prevent these problems. Avoid spreading manure on slopes. Avoid spreading when the ground is frozen. Avoid spreading if there is a rain in the forecast. Avoid spilling or dripping manure during transport. Avoid over-applying, that is, applying more than directed in the MMP. Also remember to keep a 300-foot, which is the size of a football field, distance around surface inlets for tile drainage, especially when the ground is frozen, or the field is wet, or will soon be wet from a rain predicted in the forecast. Another issue relates to catastrophic spills, such as when a storage structure collapses, or a hose breaks or splits open while pumping from storage to the field. While these kinds of failures may happen despite the best prevention efforts, it is important to make sure all equipment and structures are kept in good working order. Replace any piece of equipment at the first sign that failure may occur. If a spill occurs, contact your site manager immediately. You'll learn more about this in Module 7. So while manure provides valuable nutrients for crop production, it may also cause potential environmental concerns if not applied properly. You have a critical role monitoring your system during application. In addition to negative environmental impacts, be aware of the risk that manure can cause health problems for humans and animals. Diseases from livestock and humans can be transmitted to others when disease-causing organisms in the manure are somehow ingested by people or animals. While a direct pathway does not normally exist, from the manure spread on a field to ingestion by a human, it can become an issue if the manure goes into the waterways or streams. Once in the water, the disease-causing organisms may be ingested by a human or animal drinking the water or swimming in it if they inadvertently swallow some of the water. Next, let's talk about nitrogen. Nitrogen, known by its chemical element initial as N, is an essential element for the health of plants and animals. We apply manures or synthetic fertilizers to obtain high crop yields. But excess nitrogen in the water can be toxic to animals, including livestock and humans, especially infants. That's the reason we have a public health standard for nitrate nitrogen in drinking water, so that babies don't get sick. Unfortunately, nitrate in high concentrations is toxic to animals and humans, especially infants. Every year in Minnesota, we learn of public and private water wells experiencing high nitrate concentrations that exceed the threshold, resulting in costly treatment or moving of wells. Following best management practices, such as avoiding over-application of manure and respecting setback distances, will help limit the potential for high nitrate concentrations in our drinking water. Next is phosphorus, also known as P, which is essential for plants and animals. High phosphorus is generally not toxic to plants or animals and is relatively immobile in the soil. But phosphorus causes accelerated and excessive growth of algae and unwanted plants. In addition, that growth may limit the use of waters for drinking, fishing, and recreation. So again, we can really reduce some of the environmental problems if we just follow the setbacks specified by the Pollution Control Agency, the PCA. The most important takeaway from this lesson is that you, the manure applicator, hold the key to make sure manure is managed properly. For example, when you apply manure close to bodies of water or drain tiles, you play a critical role in preventing contamination. Because of that, you need to identify and respect these critical areas: the setbacks for different sensitive features, where you are not allowed to apply manure at all, or where you are allowed to apply manure, but you need to incorporate it into the soil to reduce the potential of runoff. So now you understand how manure is beneficial to crops, but also that the manure may have negative impacts on the environment and public health if it leaves the field where it's supposed to be. Because of the potential harm to humans and the environment, the state of Minnesota regulates manure handling. Remember, complying with the setbacks in environmentally sensitive areas is essential. Complying is complicated, however, because of the many circumstances you could encounter. With each farm and field being unique, there are different requirements for setbacks for applying manure. You won't be required to memorize all the setback requirements for this training, but you will be responsible for following all setbacks while applying manure. There are many resources and field guides that can help you determine appropriate setbacks, but the best resource is a guide called Applying Manure in Sensitive Areas that explains them well. You can request this guide from any PCA office or from any county feedlot officer. Your company may also have a copy on file. Clearly, rivers and streams are environmentally sensitive areas, but manure can also enter the environment in many other ways. In general, anytime manure is surface applied and not incorporated within 24 hours or prior to a rain event, 300-foot setback is required for sensitive features like rivers, lakes, streams, intermittent streams, drainage ditches, tile intakes or culverts, protected wetlands, sinkholes, unless other protective measures are present, like grass buffers. If manure is incorporated, then a 25-foot setback is still required for lakes, streams, intermittent streams, wetlands, and drainage ditches. This training education exists because of the state of Minnesota regulations. By implementing what you learn in this video into your work as a CAWT manure applicator, you will protect the environment and human health. In this module, we've talked about the impact of manure on the environment. Now, let's review what the environmentally sensitive areas look like. Perennial and intermittent streams. Intermittent streams typically flow after storms and when snow melts, and can flow for a continuous amount of time. Lakes and protected wetlands. Protected wetlands are typically more than 10 acres in rural areas. Drainage ditches. Setback requirements apply to edge of the field drainage ditches. Open tile intakes. These include man-made openings in the ground that move runoff waters into underground pipes, which discharge runoff into ditches or other surface waters. Steeply sloping land. Includes slopes of more than 6%. Road ditches. These are low-lying areas next to roads that could become channels for stormwater or melting snow. Other sensitive areas and the setback requirements are addressed in the guide, Applying Manure in Sensitive Areas. We've said it before and we'll be saying it again. Your job as a licensed manure applicator really does matter. And this training is provided because we want you to succeed. You will learn about applying manure in a way that contributes to our rural economy, but it is also safe and environmentally responsible. It will help you comply with the laws and regulations intended to protect people and the environment. We hope we have given you a context for why regulations exist. Working together, regulators, enforcement, and applicators can all ensure that our water and agricultural industry is healthy for all. The next module will provide more information about manure application and how understanding the rates and equipment will help you do your job well.